ask ourselves if we still know the freedoms that were intended for us by the Founding Fathers.
They seem to be in full-scale retreat from spending cuts and are talking about raising people's taxes again. And I have only one thing to say to the tax increasers. Go ahead, make my day.
If we lose freedom here, there's no place to escape to. This is the last stand on earth. Those who would trade our freedom for security have embarked on this downward course. Whether we believe in our capacity for self-government or whether we abandon the American Revolution and confess that a little intellectual elite in a far distant capital can plan our lives for us better than we can plan them ourselves.
Conduit News Radio with Paul Harrell is on now.
Hey, folks, welcome to the show. Happy Monday, everybody. Hope you had a great weekend, and I hope everybody's getting ready for a great and prosperous week. The telephone number 870-275-9799. If you would like to contribute to the program today, you can do that. Call or text 870-275-9799. We are broadcasting over at the Facebook page, facebook.com/Conduit News, as well as the YouTube. We got a lot of news to get to coming up at the bottom of this hour. We're going to talk about the concept of President Trump doing everything he can legally possible to eliminate the anchor baby policy when it comes to this idea that if you can make it in onto American soil and have a child, and that child is an American citizen. It is a concept that is actually quite, no pun intended, foreign to other developed nations. We're going to be talking with Marianne Mendoza coming up at 6:33. She is an angel mom. Her son was killed by an illegal alien, and she currently serves as a consultant and advisory board member on We Build the Wall. That's the GoFundMe effort that they've actually constructed a wall on private land. And it looks actually really good, and we've interviewed several people from this organization. So we'll be talking to her. Then at the bottom of the next hour, 7:33, we're going to be talking to Republican Ben Gilmore. He is running for a state Senate seat here in Arkansas, challenging a Democrat Eddie Cheatham. Well, I mean, presumably, if Eddie Cheatham runs. So we'll be talking to Ben just to kind of get to know him and ask him why he was running, or why he wanted to run. Why he was running. That doesn't make any sense. But hey, it's early on a Monday. We still got a ways to go. Now, those of you who can see the graphic, who are watching the program, we have decided to commandeer the graphic that represents the Arkansas Economic Development Commission. Arkansas Economic Development Commission is the commission that's in charge of giving away taxpayer money to private companies with the hope that one day they will create jobs here in Arkansas. Now, I may disagree with that whole concept and premise of economic development, but I think there are more people that would disagree with trying to pursue those efforts via the Communist Party of China. And that has been the chief economic development philosophy of Governor Asa Hutchinson and the Arkansas Economic Development Commission since he's been governor. That is to court so-called economic development by bringing the Communist Chinese Party into Arkansas. And so we have decided Arkansas Inc. is what they call themselves. That's their the name of the company for the Arkansas Economic Development Commission, Arkansas Inc. A good company. We decided to amend the graphic and just call it a Chinese company, because that's what it is. With more news on this, let's talk about the most recent news when it comes to the fallout from this weekend. We're now in the wake of the G7 summit, where the president met with leaders of other countries, our allies, and they talked about a lot of things. Matter of fact, some of the president's tweets that I thought were the most interesting over the weekend were the ones where the G7 leaders were remarking to him, according to him, that they didn't really believe the press reports. They were questioning the accuracy of United States media press reports about what actually was going on at the G7. And Donald Trump saying they're getting a lesson in what I have to deal with every single day. I thought that was pretty fascinating. But China was certainly talked about with these leaders. The trade war with China escalating on Friday. The Chinese government deciding to put more tariffs on the United States in retaliation. Then the president was basically a tit for tat. The president comes back and says, well, you know what? Now I'm going to put more tariffs on. And it is essentially ratcheting up. I mean, to the point where a lot of people don't see an end in sight. Now, I don't know if this is to calm the markets or not, but we do have multiple reports. The president has also tweeted this. This from Market Watch. China hopes to resolve the trade war with the United States through calm negotiations and is not seeking to escalate tensions, according to the Vice Premier Liu He, according to Reuters, citing a transcript from a tech conference in Chongqing. Reuters reported that Liu, who has led trade negotiations with the U.S., said no one benefits from a trade war. We are willing to resolve the issue through consultations and cooperations in a calm attitude and resolutely oppose the escalation of the trade war. We believe that the escalation of the trade war is not beneficial for China, the United States, nor to the interests of the people of the world. Again, Market Watch writing that tensions rose Friday when President Donald Trump vowed to increase tariffs against Chinese goods. And on Sunday, the White House said Trump regretted not raising them higher. The increased tension sent Asian stock markets falling Monday, as well as U.S. stock futures. Now, that was also interesting in that when the president was asked by reporters, you know, do you have second thoughts? He said, I have second thoughts about a lot of things. And of course, the press thought, oh, the president's backing down. He's unsure. He's shaky. He wishes he hadn't have started the trade war. He wishes he hadn't have instituted the next round of tariffs. And then, of course, they come out and they said, no, he's having second thoughts about not raising them higher. And now the media, and they had already written all these headlines, and now they've got a lot of clickbait headlines. You know, Trump unsure on China. Just kidding. No, he's not. He's unsure in the way that wouldn't really change the outcome of anything. Again, the telephone number 870-275-9799. Here's from Fox News. China signaled on Monday it is seeking a calm. This is now the narrative across multiple platforms. China signaled on Monday it is now seeking a calm end to its ongoing trade war with the U.S. This word calm, you're going to hear this a lot today. Calm, calm, calm. I don't know if that's intended to have a psychological impact on the markets or not. You decide. Fox News, they report. You decide. Trump said Monday that officials from China called U.S. officials and expressed interest to get back to the table. But then, of course, there are other reports that are saying that never happened, that they've got some Chinese official somewhere denying that those calls ever happened. I mean, who are you going to believe? I'm going to believe the president when it comes to, you know, anything that China says. The fact is, this newest remark about wanting a calm end to this, that's the most current thing, and that actually did come from the Chinese. So, you know, there are people who say that the United States just simply has way more bullets in the trade war. But then there are also people who say that you cannot underestimate the resolve of a communist dictator and the amount of suffering he will allow his people to go under just so he can win against an adversary. This may be the most important negotiation in American history. I mean, that we really may be certainly one of the most complex negotiations in American history. Also that we can have no trade barriers. Also that we can just be equal. This has gone on for far too long. And the President of the United States is trying to do something about it. Hey, back when I started this show 10 years ago, or when I started radio 10 years ago, I was real focused on the national debt and talked about it a lot. I think it was only $12 trillion. And I was looking at the mandatory spending, you know, your non-discretionary, Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security. And you're looking at the $100 trillion plus of unfunded liabilities, and you just think, I mean, this is going to be a problem. This is going to be a huge problem. Now, consequently, one of the reasons it wasn't is because China, keeps buying up our debt, or at least they were. Now we're kind of hoping to just people keep buying our treasuries, keep buying our debt. But one of the things I asked back then, and those of you who've been listening the entire time I've been on the air, you remember I would ask the question, are Americans willing to sacrifice? Are we willing to sacrifice, or are we more concerned about being first in line at Starbucks? Are we willing to sacrifice, or are we more concerned about our favorite sports team winning? I mean, are we really going to look at what our country is, where we're going, what kind of future we want for our kids, and are we willing to sacrifice to do it? And my conclusion was no, not at all. We weren't. Not in terms of spending on these social safety net programs that we've built up. As I look back in hindsight, I think the answer is pretty clear. I mean, no, nobody wants to raise the retirement age. Nobody wants to have that conversation. And nobody wants to talk about, the other non-discretionary spending programs. I mean, that's the real way that you get aside from massive economic growth, that's the main way you get things under control. Nobody really wants to talk about that. They don't want to sacrifice for that. But here's the thing: when it comes to defeating a foreign adversary that is threatening us, that's expanding its military, when it is the communist ideology, I think the answer to that question is different, and I think we're seeing that right now throughout the agriculture community. You've got people who have voted for President Donald Trump, and the soybean market is, in terms with China, is drying up. Now you had the president in principle agreeing with Japan on a massive deal for corn. A lot of people are excited about that. A lot of people thought that was and that may be why China's coming on Monday saying, hey, we want a calm resolution to this. Who knows? I'll tell you one thing. If, you want to know somebody that doesn't like the Chinese, it's the Japanese. Okay? And the vice versa. It's just the way it is. So I just think the answer to the question is, are Americans willing to sacrifice when it comes to, I think the answer is, yeah, we are. Very much like we did in World War II, where people are willing to suffer short-term pain so that we can reclaim our sovereignty. Now, not everybody, and then it's not going to help when you've got agriculture magazines that are accepting Chinese dollars to put op-eds that make the situation seem worse than it is. Now, and listen, I'm not a farmer. You guys, watch your bottom line better than anybody else because it affects you the most. But I'd love to hear from you today. I'd love to hear from you. I want to know what you think. 870-275-9799. This has been going on a long time, and it's going to take a while, it looks like, to right the ship. Now, in the meantime, the president came out on Friday and said that he does have the power to order U.S. companies to pull out of China, citing a 1977 law. And then there's also more about, declaring a national emergency and everything else. In response to that, the governor of Arkansas said that would be a mistake. Asa Hutchinson saying it would be a mistake. I think it has something to do with the 6 Chinese Communist Party entities he's trying to recruit here in Arkansas, or has. Talk Business and Politics, Roby Brock has the story, and we'll give you that story next. Don't go anywhere. I wanted to remind you that if you miss the daily live broadcast, you can always catch up and listen across our digital platforms on your smartphone or computer. First, you can watch the show on Facebook.
Just use your internet browser and type in facebook.com/Conduit News. From there, select videos on the left side of your screen. From there, you can watch the full 2-hour show each day or select specific interviews you want to watch. Another place you can watch the show is on YouTube. Just use your internet browser and type in youtube.com. Then, in the search bar, search for Conduit News. Select the Conduit News page as it appears. While here, be sure to hit the subscribe button and click the little bell to receive notifications when new videos are ready. From YouTube, you can also watch every live show daily and all the interviews I have with guests. More options are available at our website, conduitnews.com. Select Conduit News Radio with Paul Harrell tab. From here, you can watch each day's show live or watch old episodes and interviews. You can also catch audio-only versions of the show right here on this page of the website. For audio-only versions of the show, you have some options. For Apple iPhone users, simply use the podcast app and search Conduit News. Subscribe to the podcast and get each hour of the show automatically in your app daily. You can also download the SoundCloud app from your app store and search Conduit News to find our station. Conduit News is the intersection of conservative ideas and reality. And now you know. You've got many options to watch what we do, listen to what we do, and find out what government is doing in your name. Learn more at conduitnews.com. Hi, folks. I'd like to tell you about Conduit for Commerce. Conduit for Commerce is an Arkansas-focused nonprofit organization which receives no government funding. Its core beliefs are economic freedom, individual liberty, and limited government. Conduit for Commerce believes those principles are foundational to all individual freedoms and promotes these principles by educating Arkansans and your elected state officials concerning good government policies that will create a better life for all Arkansans. These traditional conservative values have proven throughout history to lift people from poverty, achieve individual desire, and assist in the pursuit of happiness. Conduit for Commerce operates on the basic belief that these principles and ideals of the American founding are worth conserving and renewing at each generation, especially today. Conduit for Commerce accomplishes this work only
A liberty machine.
Yes.
Find out more at conduitnews.com.
All right, welcome back, folks. Thanks so much for being with us this morning. Good morning to you. We're talking about China and we're talking about Arkansas. I realized on Friday night, in the wake of the escalating trade war, that Arkansas must be bought and paid for by China. We are being sold out, or we have been sold out, or there are deals that are going to come to fruition, or they would have come to fruition if it wasn't for President Donald Trump recognizing that there's clearly something very wrong with the Chinese relationship and American politicians. I think the president knows this, and I think this is an epidemic. We've heard this from the vice president. This has been going on for a very, very long time. Headline, Roby Brock, Talk Business and Politics. Governor says Trump's call to exit China would be a mistake. Now, Roby writes, and I think he's good to do this. He brings up the fact that Arkansas has a ton of these deals that are in flux right now because of the trade war with China. Now, the president tweeted, "Our great American companies are hereby ordered to immediately start looking for an alternative to China, including bringing your companies home and making your products in the USA. I will be responding to China's tariffs this afternoon. This is a great opportunity for the United States. Also, I am ordering all carriers, including FedEx, Amazon, UPS, and the post office, to search for and refuse all deliveries of fentanyl from China." Now, see, they promised that these fentanyl operations would stop, and they haven't done so. Roby Brock writing, Arkansas has worked on 6 different foreign direct investment manufacturing projects with the Chinese, totaling more than $1.6 billion during the Hutchinson administration. They included announcements of Shandong Rui Technology in Forest City, Sun Paper in Clark County, Tianyan Garments, Little Rock, Reserver Machinery in Jonesboro, and Dragon Woodland in Helena, West Helena. Also Pet One Pet Products in Danville. Roby points out that Congressman Rick Crawford, in a speech last week, told the agricultural leaders that the Chinese were dishonest brokers. He also had a guest editorial over at Talk Business and Politics, talking about how they flouted the rules of the World Trade Organization China has. Governor Hutchinson said Trump's tweet storm on Friday was the president's way of saying that this long, painful trade war has no sign of a near-term solution. Quote, our American companies need to be prepared for it, Hutchinson tells Talk Business and Politics. Now he's also, in essence, saying that our American economy needs to disengage from the Chinese economy, and that cannot be done without devastating impact. Our economies are intertwined and have been for decades. It's one thing to try to equalize our trade. It's another thing to withdraw from trade with China. I think that would be a mistake. Hutchinson said, despite the tension between the two countries, he's still optimistic that previously announced Chinese investment in Arkansas will continue. Quote, those are decisions that are made by the Chinese investors. Now, I want you to hear this quote from the governor about whether or not whether or not these economic development projects with the Communist Party of China come to fruition. He writes, he says, those are decisions that are made by the Chinese investors. They look at the economy just like everyone else, and they look at the trade disputes and the impact it'll have on their individual businesses. I have not seen any indication that, with the current investments, that this is making a difference. Let me just stop right there. Does the governor of Arkansas actually believe that these Chinese investors are free? Do you believe these companies are autonomous and free? Sounds like that's what you're claiming, which would be incredibly naive. Now, I've never been to China. The governor has. But unless there's been some sort of overthrow of the Communist Party of China, maybe I missed that. Maybe I didn't get that memo. Maybe I missed that headline somewhere. Quote, the governor went on, but the more animosity, the more fuel that is put on the fire, the more difficult it is for those investments to be sustained and to finish out those that are works in progress. So it just makes the environment much more challenging. I know that those investments and those jobs are very important for a lot of smaller communities around Arkansas, from Helena to Arkadelphia to Jonesboro. So I'm optimistic that those investments will continue, but it certainly puts a strain on the timetables. So if Arkansas stands to gain so much from the Communist Party opening up little mini embassies that they call companies across the state, the question from any respected journalist to the governor should be, do you believe that if Donald Trump loses the 2020 elections, will that mean more jobs for Arkansas? Understanding the bias of their question, I'm expecting it because they're the mainstream media, and you would think they would want to separate these two because they always want a token Republican to try to criticize the Republican presidency. But in attempting to put myself in their mind, their biased mind, would Trump losing mean more jobs for Arkansans? I'd love to hear what the governor has to say about that. We'll have more on this story throughout the rest of the show. Don't go anywhere.
Hi, folks. I'd like to tell you about Conduit for Commerce. Conduit for Commerce is an Arkansas-focused nonprofit organization which receives no government funding. Its core beliefs are economic freedom, individual liberty, and limited government. Conduit for Commerce believes those principles are foundational to all individual freedoms and promotes these principles by educating Arkansans and your elected state officials concerning good government policies that will create a better life for all Arkansans. These traditional conservative values have proven throughout history to lift people from poverty, achieve individual desire, and assist in the pursuit of happiness. Conduit for Commerce operates on the basic belief that these principles and ideals of the American founding are worth conserving and renewing at each generation, especially today. Conduit for Commerce accomplishes this work only through the support and interaction of small businesses as well as individuals. Conduit for Commerce thrives from like-minded Arkansans' participation and partnership. It's only through the support of folks like you that Conduit for Commerce is able to be the conduit to the Arkansas State Capitol. Help us continue as Arkansas's primary small business policy entrepreneur through your financial support. Join us by visiting conduitforcommerce.org. Once you're at the site, click Support Our Cause at the top of your screen. Your one-time or monthly donation will directly impact Conduit for Commerce's mission to promote liberty and economic freedom in Arkansas. Together, we can build a liberty machine. That's conduitforcommerce.org.
Folks, it's a restaurant that's been serving great meals since 1947. It's called the Old South Restaurant. It's in Russellville, Arkansas. And the owner, Dale Summit, is on the line with us right now. Dale, how are you, sir?
Well, I'm great, Paul. Thank you. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic. So I guess, people are, they're wanting to eat some breakfast right now. So, I mean, Old South can take care of that for them, right?
Yes, sir. We sure can. Come on over.
So I was, I would like to start. I want to talk about your history in business, and your career and how you landed at Old South. But I really got to start when I was in Russellville for the primary of that Senate election there. I guess last year, or I can't even remember how long ago it was. Time flies. I had several.
I remember.
Okay, yeah, it was pretty intense. I had several meals there, and there's a hot sauce there that you sell, though. Can you tell us about that hot sauce? Because that is.
Bringing you your daily dose of truth. It's Conduit News Radio with Paul Harrell.
Here we go, 870-275-9799 is the telephone number. 870-275-9799. Feel free to call or text us. Folks, I want to turn now to this story here in the Washington Times from last week. We told you about this. This is obviously going to be the left's new cry of racism. But this was about, 6 days ago. Trump moves to cancel illegal immigrant family loophole, looking at getting rid of this idea of anchor babies as well, this policy. We do have Stephen Miller from the White House who's now saying the president is exploring every legal option to end this policy. Here now to talk more about that. We have Marianne Mendoza on the line. She is an angel mom whose son was killed by an illegal alien. She currently serves as a consultant and advisory board member for We Build the Wall. Marianne, thank you so much for being with us this morning.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Really excited to have you on the program. What can you tell us about what you're hearing? Well, actually let's first of all, we've interviewed several people from We Build the Wall, and it is absolutely incredible that you guys have been able to construct the physical barrier on our southern border.
Oh, it's amazing, and to see it in person and to see the location and what Fisher Industries was able to do in 10 days is just it's amazing, and it's beautiful, and it's the will and the power of the American people showing our politicians that we can do what they refuse to do.
For those of you who don't know, we Build the Wall is a GoFundMe effort, so people can still donate. You guys are still raising money, right?
Yes, we have several projects still that we're negotiating and looking at. And, what we concentrate is gaps in the wall. For whatever reason, where the government wall stops at a mile, 2 miles away, or 5 miles away, it starts up again. It's like that in so many spots along the southern border. It's just not a solid fence. And over 300 miles in southern Arizona along our border is barbed wire or Normandy fencing. So Arizona's wide open, as is Texas with the Rio Grande.
We're talking with Marianne Mendoza, who is an angel mom. I know you're asked about this often, but your son being killed by an illegal immigrant. These are deaths that are 100% preventable if we could control, who was coming in and out of our country. And I know that you agree with that, and that's why you're an activist now, right?
Yes, and if people would only realize the number of crimes that are committed by illegal aliens in the country, how many of those are committed by illegal alien criminals who have already been deported and they're back and they're committing more crimes? It's astounding, and it's very, very large. And, there's crimes that are committed by illegal aliens who have been deported 7, 8, 15, 22 times. So it's very, very important that we do have that southern barrier closed, so that when these criminals are deported, that we know that they're going to be staying in their country. They're not going to keep walking back over the next day, the next week, and committing more crimes here. Because they realize, our justice system shows so much leniency to illegal alien criminals versus what would happen to an American citizen who committed that same crime.
Yeah.
They know that.
No doubt they know it. And, it's also a game of incentives and disincentives. Certainly a wall serves to make it harder to come into this country illegally. But then you also have these other incentives that, maybe you attempt the journey because maybe you are pregnant and you know that if you can come over here and have a child, then now that child is an American citizen, according to some. So what are your thoughts on the president saying, I don't think the 14th Amendment does say this, provide for this, and so we need to change that policy. What are your thoughts on that?
This is why we elected Donald Trump, because these are the things that he talked about during his campaign, and these are the things that he's got the backbone and the gut to do something about. I just pray and hope that he continues to follow through. The Flores settlement, we don't need to continue having that, because what it's actually done is overburdened our Border Patrol. They've got 20 days in order to process a child and that child's family if they've been separated. And that isn't enough time to vet somebody. That isn't enough time in some cases to find out if that child does in fact belong to the adult figures that they came across the border from. When 50 to 75% of our Border Patrol is being used to transport people to detention centers or to babysit people, this is why it's become such an important issue. We've got to have the proper amount of time. We have to know who's coming into our country. And our Border Patrol and our administration is very staunch in their stance of protecting these children who are coming across the border to make sure they don't end up in the wrong hands.
Now, talk a little bit more about that, because, this is something that we never, or the mainstream media doesn't want to talk about, right? That a lot of times you have people who are claiming that this child is their own, and it's not. And we have human trafficking and sex trafficking of little children going on the southern border, and then the Democrats want to say that a wall is immoral. They're trying to claim the moral high ground here. This is really serious.
It is, and they focus on one situation. They may focus on a child being separated from a mother who never should have been, and so they will laser focus on that situation, just like AOC when she was down at the border. That might have been one sink that was broken in one cell out of thousands of cells or holding areas at the border and the detention centers. They focus on one thing and try and make such a big deal about it. But when the cases are brought up to them, what about these children who are being sex trafficked? And what about the child who was bought for $80 and was brought across the border with a man and sent right back and sold again and brought back over the border because they know that's their free ticket to being released into the United States quicker to await their asylum hearing? And what happens to that child if it's not sent back? It does end up in the wrong hands. It's modern-day slavery going on in the United States right under the liberals' noses, and they will refuse to recognize it. This isn't just about the Americans who are killed or Americans who are affected by illegal alien crime. These are human beings, mothers, sisters, daughters, aunts, women, children who are being sold into the sex trafficking business in the United States. We've got to stop this.
We're talking with Marianne Mendoza. She's an angel mom who lost her son. Marianne, can you tell us about that story?
Yes, on May 12th, 2014, the very early morning hours, my son was on his way home from his shift. He was a sergeant with the Mesa, Arizona Police Department. And a three-time legal limit drunk, high on meth, repeat illegal alien criminal had driven over 35 miles, slammed head-on, going over 100 miles an hour into my son when he was on his way home from work. And my son succumbed to his injuries several hours later in surgery. It was a totally avoidable situation. He had committed crimes up in Adams County, Colorado, years before that, never showed up for his court date. And when he was reapprehended at the border years later and taken back up to Adams County, Colorado to face his charges, the judge basically gave him a slap on the wrist and said, have a nice life in the United States. So, there again, another situation where the leniency our court systems show these people, and even if he had been deported, he'd be back over here anyway.
Yeah.
This is why I'm so staunch about getting our borders secured and really talking to people about making sure who you voted, the judges you're voting for in your areas, because a lot of them, don't do things in a way to protect their constituents at all.
No doubt. And, if anyone has ever, if anyone ever has a right to a political opinion, it's certainly you and other moms and dads like you that have lost their children because of a policy, an open borders policy. I can't imagine being in your shoes, but I respect you so much, Marianne, and I thank you for standing up and trying to stop this, the loss that you have, to try to stop it from ever happening again to another American family, because this really is a life and death situation, and not just for people like your son, but also for these kids, who, like you said, we're talking about modern day slavery. And I can't help but, emphasize how before the president, and I think this is just so self-evident if anyone would just take a step and step back and look at it. Before President Trump, people were talking about illegal immigration, but they weren't talking about human trafficking at the border. That wasn't a thing that was being talked about, but now it is. I mean, have you noticed that?
Yes. And your listeners need to realize when the cartel turns to human trafficking because it's making them more money than selling drugs, then there is something bad going on at our borders. They sell the drugs, it's a one-time transaction. However, if they're smuggling people over the border, and it is happening to men too, the cost, they get to the United States, and they have to continue making these payments to the cartel. They're working for years and years and years paying this debt off to the cartel. And a lot of these women are sold into the sex slave business here in the United States because the cartel knows that it'll be, ongoing payments. It's not going to be, drug out for 10 or 15 years. So it is a very bad thing when the cartel has turned to human smuggling because it's more profitable. But, wake up, folks.
Yeah. Yeah, and Mark Levin on his Fox News show a couple of weeks ago did a whole thing on human trafficking and how the United States is number one for the youngest average human trafficked girl of 12 years old. And by reports, we're talking about at least $150 billion a year industry. I mean, this is a money-making scheme, and it's got to stop. And, hopefully the president will be successful. You folks at We Build the Wall will be successful as well. Marianne Mendoza, can you tell people real quick one more time, if they want to donate to We Build the Wall, that you guys are actually building physical barriers down there, what do they need to do?
They can go to webuildthewall.us. There's a donate link there. We are working with Fisher Industries out of Coolidge, Arizona. He builds a far superior product than any of these companies that the government has awarded contracts to. 80 lifespan year steel is used on the ballers versus 20-year lifespan steel that most of the companies are using. A paved road, lighting, sensors to where it can sense walking, digging, driving, up to 60 feet out from either side of the fence. So it's a far superior product, and our Border Patrol agents, the piece that we did in Sunland Park, New Mexico, they are thrilled with the outcome because we have stopped crossings in that area 100%.
Wow, that's fantastic. Yeah, and that it's such an impressive wall. If you go take a look at it, folks, it's We Build the Wall. Angel Mom Marianne Mendoza, thank you so much for spending some time with us this morning.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
All righty. Folks, so we're going to make a smaller YouTube video of this. We'll post it up at conduitnews.com. Share with your friends. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. Click the little bell to receive notifications at Conduit News. We'll be back here in just a moment.
I wanted to remind you that if you miss the daily live broadcast, you can always catch up and listen across our digital platforms on your smartphone or computer. First, you can watch the show on Facebook. Just use your internet browser and type in facebook.com/Conduit News. From there, select videos on the left side of your screen. From there, you can watch the full 2-hour show each day or select specific interviews you want to watch. Another place you can watch the show is on YouTube. Just use your internet browser and type in youtube.com. Then, in the search bar, search for Conduit News. Select the Conduit News page as it appears. While here, be sure to hit the subscribe button and click the little bell to receive notifications when new videos are ready. From YouTube, you can also watch every live show daily and all the interviews I have with guests. More options are available at our website, conduitnews.com. Select Conduit News Radio with Paul Harrell tab. From here, you can watch each day's show live or watch old episodes and interviews. You can also catch audio-only versions of the show right here on this page of the website. For audio-only versions of the show, you have some options. For Apple iPhone users, simply use the podcast app and search Conduit News. Subscribe to the podcast and get each hour of the show automatically in your app daily. You can also download the SoundCloud app from your app store and search Conduit News to find our station. Conduit News is the intersection of conservative ideas and reality. And now you know. You've got many options to watch what we do, listen to what we do, and find out what government is doing in your name. Learn more at conduitnews.com.
Some of the best I've ever had.
Yes, sir. It's called River Valley pepper sauce, and it was it was born out of necessity. It's another one of those success stories. A fellow named Rodney Yeager and a couple of other guys have started a company called My Pepper, and he was a manager at a restaurant, and one of his cooks grew some great peppers, and they were making salsa from his garden, and one of the customers didn't like any of the hot sauces that they had, so they began to tinker with it just to please him, and came up with a sauce out of a combination out of the salsa and the other ingredients that they had, and then other customers began to try this, and they loved it, and and it went from there.
Determined to drain the swamp in Little Rock, it's Conduit News Radio with Paul Harrell.
Welcome. Welcome, he-beaver and she-beaver. Thanks so much for being with us on this Monday morning. You know, there's other news in the news, if that makes sense. I don't really. I'm gonna get into this, but I really want to focus on the fact that Arkansas is now a Chinese company. But Andy Davis writing this in the Arkansas Democrat Gazette yesterday. Services program overtops estimate. Arkansas's Medicaid costs up 4.7% for 2019. Now, this is a very awkward headline. Really, the contents of this article is very awkward because they had an entire, Medicaid task force that was designed to continue Medicaid expansion, even though it was told to conservatives that it was designed to end it, which we all, when Conduit told you that was a lie back then, and people were upset with Conduit for saying that, but we were right. And then, of course, they were like, they wanted to save $835 million from traditional Medicaid, essentially so they could keep people on the expanded Medicaid. And they had this whole task force set up to do it. And wouldn't you know it, this is still an unsustainable program. And people really, people are going to say whatever they're going to say to avoid getting egg all over their face or looking bad. But, here's the thing. What is it? It's 2019. That was in 2015. It doesn't matter. It does. It should, but it doesn't. The fact of the matter is what a politician tells you in 2015 with carefully crafted language and what he promises you then, it doesn't really materialize. It's an unsustainable program then. It's an unsustainable program now, even though you've tried to tweak around the edges. And here we go. Nobody, there's no consequences for you, and this is how you maintain power. It's how you stay in power, it's just trying to keep the public ignorant as much as you possibly can. So I'm going to dive into this article probably a little bit more tomorrow and kind of go over the numbers. But honestly, folks, the main story is China and Arkansas's stance in China. We have 6 deals with Chinese companies, and we have this country that's in the middle of a trade war. The President of the United States is trying to do something and trying to right the ship, and the governor comes out and says that it would be a mistake to listen to the president. That's what he said. It would be a mistake to cut off for American companies to exit China, because our economies are intertwined. Well, that's the problem. Ever think about that's the problem he's trying to fix? And my question, do you really care about the intertwining, or do you care about the Chinese deals that you have instituted, that you've devoted your entire administration to? Asa Hutchinson's, I know liberal journalist John Brummett would say Asa Hutchinson's legacy is, not getting rid of Medicaid expansion. And in many cases that is, because it's the reason we've had to raise taxes across the board for the people of Arkansas. And that ties directly into this services program overtops estimate. Arkansas Medicaid costs up 4.7%. Arkansas Medicaid costs up 4.7%, which is why they had to raise your taxes $70 million in fiscal year 2020. That's just the way it is. But the other achievement or focus has got to be China. It's Governor Asa Hutchinson and the Arkansas Economic Development Commission's commitment to bringing Chinese communist entities to Arkansas with the promise of job creation. That is really the legacy here. And the President of the United States says that there's a problem with China, and he's going to try to fix it. And the trade war has escalated. The Chinese would rather see the president lose in 2020. If we're supposed to have all these jobs, and Donald Trump's trade war with China is preventing these companies from coming here, as the governor said to Talk Business and Politics, Roby Brock, that it's making the timetables a little hard, the trade war makes the timetables tough, then the next question from any journalist to the governor would be, if Donald Trump loses, do you believe Arkansans will get more jobs by, with these, with the communist Chinese deals going through? Why not ask him? Why not ask him? Here we go again. Look, I'm sorry. On Friday night, as I was, kind of just thinking about the day and everything that happened, reading the headlines, I realized that Arkansas is essentially being sold to China. That right now the two countries, the United States and China, are on a collision course. And you've got one guy trying to stop something that's been going on, and China's 100-year plan and their military buildup and what they're doing in the South China Sea. All of this is intertwined. What they're doing with Hong Kong, all of this is intertwined. And my home state is trying to bring China into Arkansas. And it just flew all over me. I don't like that our state appears to be part of the problem. And we don't have to be. Again, I don't agree with economic development that means taxpayer dollars going to a private company to try to recruit them here. I personally don't agree with that. But I understand that's probably an unrealistic opinion to ever see that actually go away. Because all states do it. If you're going to do it, why China? Why not an American company? Why not try to recruit an American company to Arkansas? Why the communist Chinese? Is that the best we can do? Or is there something else going on here? The fact of the matter is, in every situation where the Chinese go into a country, use their resources, and send the profits back home, whether they're going after the minerals in Zimbabwe, Mozambique, or South America, or Cuba, the first thing that the Chinese communists do is grease the politicians in those countries. That's not even in dispute in Zimbabwe, Mozambique. That's not even, you can't even challenge that, right? That's what the Chinese do, period, in those countries. So how do you think they handle Arkansas? How do you think they handle Arkansas? The governor of Arkansas said this about the trade war and whether or not China will come to Arkansas. Quote, "Those are decisions that are made by the Chinese investors. They look at the economy just like everyone else, and they look at the trade disputes and hang on. They look at the economy just like everyone else." Do you believe that? You believe that China's looking at the economy like everybody else as independent, free investors? Like, Chinese investors are not members of the Communist Party? And if they were to step out of line, that they're not loyal to President Xi, who's now going to be a leader in China for life? Does this bother anyone that the governor of Arkansas is claiming that, that they're just like everybody else? That they're not ruled and influenced, and everything that they do is thought in the light of not profit, but how does this better the communist ideology? That's what it is. They don't care if they wouldn't care to lose money if it meant stealing enough intellectual property from us. My goodness. God, she's a real estate agent selling us to China.
The news and talk of Northeast Arkansas. This is News Talk 101.3 FM and 12:30 AM KBTM, Jonesboro, an EAB radio station.
Hi, folks. I'd like to tell you about Conduit for Commerce. Conduit for Commerce is an Arkansas-focused nonprofit organization which receives no government funding. Its core beliefs are economic freedom, individual liberty, and limited government. Conduit for Commerce believes those principles are foundational to all individual freedoms and promotes these principles by educating Arkansans and your elected state officials concerning good government policies that will create a better life for all Arkansans. These traditional conservative values have proven throughout history to lift people from poverty, achieve individual desire, and assist in the pursuit of happiness. Conduit for Commerce operates on the basic belief that these principles and ideals of the American founding are worth conserving and renewing at each generation, especially today. Conduit for Commerce accomplishes this work only through the support and interaction of small businesses as well as individuals. Conduit for Commerce thrives from like-minded Arkansans' participation and partnership. It's only through the support of folks like you that Conduit for Commerce is able to be the conduit to the Arkansas State Capitol. Help us continue as Arkansas's primary small business policy entrepreneur through your financial support. Join us by visiting conduitforcommerce.org. Once you're at the site, click Support Our Cause at the top of your screen. Your one-time or monthly donation will directly impact Conduit for Commerce's mission to promote liberty and economic freedom in Arkansas. Together, we can build a liberty machine. That's conduitforcommerce.org.
They sell it, retail it out of several places locally, and then ship it over the internet.
That's fantastic. River Valley pepper sauce. It's good stuff.
Yes, sir.
And you guys have it on your tables, right?
Yes, we do. And then we also retail it. We have it in the, on display. So we sell it. We sell it by, by the bottle also.
Yeah, man, it's good stuff. I bought a few bottles and to take back with me. I have been singing the praise of River Valley pepper sauce, but also Old South Restaurant. So let's start there, Dale. I mean, I know we've had you on the program before, but we like to highlight small business owners. We like to highlight small business here at Conduit News. You guys are the backbone of, Arkansas business. And so, how did you land? Tell us again. How did you land at Old South?
Well, first of all, we'd like to thank you for, the stands you take that are, that are close to us. The first encounter we had with Old South was my children went to Tech. I have 3 children, and they all went to college at Arkansas Tech. So we would go into the restaurant from time to time. We were in the restaurant business also at that time. We had a restaurant outside of Hot Springs Village, and never thought of buying it at that time. But eventually, we sold the one in Hot Springs Village, and my son and I were looking to be in business again after a couple of years of being bored, and that one became available, and along with some others, but we chose that one because of the atmosphere of the town, the small town atmosphere, and the fact that it had, it had a lot of. We felt like it had a lot of potential, had a lot of history. It seemed to fit what we wanted to do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Hey, let me ask you this: obviously, when the economy's doing good, more people go out to dinner, right? Is that true?
Yes, sir. Of course.
So, how do you gauge that right now? I mean, how's business doing? How is the economy, here in Arkansas? I mean, we hear that it's, doing good, but how's it doing for you?
Well, the restaurant business, when the economy is doing good, it's opens the door for competition. So we have more competition than we would have had the economy been stagnant all these years. So, it's not all it is not all peaches and cream. we have to step up.
I think it's time we ask ourselves if we still know the freedoms that were intended for us by the Founding Fathers.
They seem to be in full-scale retreat from spending cuts and are talking about raising people's taxes again. And I have only one thing to say to the tax increasers. Go ahead, make my day.
If we lose freedom here, there's no place to escape to. This is the last stand on earth. Those who would trade our freedom for security have embarked on this downward course. Whether we believe in our capacity for self-government or whether we abandon the American Revolution and confess that a little intellectual elite in a far distant capital can plan our lives for us better than we can plan them ourselves.
Conduit News Radio with Paul Harrell is on now.
All right, folks. Everybody, welcome to the program. Thanks so much for being with us today. This is hour number 2. I want to start at the top of the hour by talking to local schools, local law enforcement. There are rumors of a plot, just rumors of a plot for a school shooting. And this has been circulated on Facebook. Matter of fact, 5 News Online has a report, KFSM, that there are several posts that are being shared on Facebook. Several posts are being shared on Facebook concerning a threat of a school shooting to occur in Arkansas this week. The posts have been shared hundreds of times on social media platforms, alluding to possible school shootings to occur in Arkansas and in Kentucky on Thursday, August 29th. None of these posts point to any specific school. The lack of details has caused massive confusion as to where the original information came from. Parents in the River Valley and Northwest Arkansas have been asking about the credibility behind the post. 5 News is looking into what local school officials and law enforcement are saying. The Alma Police Department said, quote, "As always, we will continue to work closely with the Alma School District to provide a secure learning environment for our students." Parents, the Little Rock office of the FBI, this is the, let's say, schools posted the following statement. Parents, the Little Rock office of the FBI issued a release Sunday afternoon describing a possible threat, generic in nature, to schools in Arkansas for Thursday, August 29th. They have not confirmed the source or verified the threat. Alma School District has not been made aware of any specific threat against our school or community. As part of our security procedures, the information we have been given has been processed through research-based threat assessment procedures, and at this time is classified at the lowest risk possible. We will continue to practice sound security procedures on a daily basis to make sure our students are safe, students and staff are safe. We will continue heightened security measures due to this threat. We will continue to communicate with local, state, and federal authorities as needed during the upcoming week, and we'll send you any additional information that we receive. Your child's safety is of utmost importance to us. You are committed, or we rather, are committed to providing a safe learning environment for our students and staff, not only this week, but in the weeks, months, and years to come. As always, the administrators of the Alma School District are available to discuss any school matters with you by email or phone. Please contact any school or the district office. That's David Woolley, Alma School District Superintendent. The Arkansas State Police put out the following statement on Facebook. Arkansas State Police has been in close contact in recent days with the Federal Bureau of Investigation, attempting to identify the source of an alleged threat of gun violence at an undisclosed Arkansas school reportedly planned for later this week. At this time, no corroborating evidence or useful details have been uncovered in regard to the information provided to the FBI. In the event more specific or credible information is received, it will be shared with local law enforcement, state and local school officials, as well as Arkansas citizens. The Arkansas State Police asks that if anyone has information about a threat of violence, whether the site of the threat may be a school or other public place, please contact your nearest Arkansas State Police officer or local law enforcement agency A complete listing of state police offices can be found at the link. Bentonville School District representatives said they are in communication with local law enforcement, but did not say if extra security would be added. They released this statement. Parents and guardians, we recently learned the FBI issued a general awareness statement about the information they received regarding the possibility of a school shooting somewhere in the state of Arkansas on August 29th. Local law enforcement say the threat is unsubstantiated. The safety of your child is a top priority. We are not aware of any threat to Bentonville schools and will remain in close contact with Bentonville Police and Benton County Sheriff's Office. Boonville, the Little Rock office of the FBI issued a release. So this is from the Boonville School District. The FBI issued a release describing a possible threat, generic in nature, to schools in Arkansas for Thursday, August 29th. They have not confirmed the source or verified the threat. Now, Joe, did you tell me, just in your research on this, that you thought that you heard that this was on a video game chat of some kind?
Yeah, it was a post that someone.
Okay, some post that they think. Joe seemed to think that at least there's something on the internet that says that maybe this originated in a chat room on a game or something. They have not confirmed the source or verified the threat. Boonville School District has not been made aware of any specific threat against our school or community. As a part of our safety procedures, the information we've been given has been processed through research-based threat assessment. Okay, Clarksville. The Clarksville School District is aware of the FBI bulletin regarding a general threat to unspecified schools in Arkansas and other states. We will be monitoring this situation very closely. Our children's safety is our top priority. Cleburne County Sheriff's Department. The Sheriff's Department released this. On August 20th, the Little Rock FBI office issued a general awareness statement about information they received relating to possible school shootings in Arkansas and Kentucky. Please rest assured that we are taking this information seriously. We will be working with the schools through the next week and take the necessary steps to ensure the safety of the students. Elkins. The Elkins Police Department is aware of the FBI bulletin regarding, then he goes to Farmington. Farmington School District is aware of the threat. Let's see, Zena Featherston from Fort Smith Public Schools said the Fort Smith Public School District is aware of the FBI bulletin. In reaction to that, we will have extra supervision and presence at the high schools. We are waiting for more guidance from the FBI. The following statement was also released on the Fort Smith Public School Facebook page, where they say the same thing. We have another statement from the Greenwood Police Department. It just kind of goes on and on. 5 News has all of this. Mansfield School District. Any more? Mountainburg. It goes on. Ozark Schools has a statement. Pea Ridge from the police department there. Then the Prairie Grove School District. Springdale School District. It just goes on. Van Buren. So I started at the top of the show with this or the top of the second hour, because I just wanted everybody to be aware. You can't talk about something like that too much if we're talking about attempting to prevent something like this. So just everybody say a prayer, and if you see something, you say something. Telephone number 870-275-9799. If you would like to contribute to the program, you can call or text. That's 870-275-9799. Okay. Real quick, I want to rehash it. Let's see. Can you look at the president's Twitter? Has he tweeted anything on China, on the trade war with China? Yeah, he's one tweet in the last hour, so he has tweeted once since the show started. He tweeted, very productive meeting with Angela Merkel and the Chancellor of the Federal Republic of Germany at the G7 summit. Okay. So the last thing he tweeted before that was great respect for the fact that President Xi and his representatives want calm resolution. So impressed that they are willing to come out and state the facts so accurately. This is why he is a great leader and representing a great country. Talks are continuing. This is from Market Watch. China's top trade official says he hopes for calm resolution to tariff war. The president has said that his folks and the Chinese people, the Chinese representatives, have had some sort of conversation to try to get back to the trade table or the negotiating table. Okay? Now, I want to reiterate that over the weekend, Talk Business and Politics' Roby Brock reached out to Governor Asa Hutchinson because, in light of the fact that the president was saying he has the authority under the 1977 law to tell companies, to cease doing business with China, he told companies on Friday, said, hey, American companies need to seriously think about getting out of China because we're not going to have any other choice here. We're going to win the trade war, and if we have to have some pain to do it, we're willing to do that. Roby Brock rightly mentions that Arkansas has 6 different Chinese direct investment manufacturing projects. We have 6 different ones. We've got Shandong Rui Technology in Forest City, Sun Paper, Clark County, Tiananmen Garments. I don't think you pronounce that Tiananmen. Might as well be Tiananmen. Tiananmen Garments. Rice Ever Machinery in Jonesboro, Dragon Woodland, and Pet One Pet Products in Danville. So he points out that, hey, there's obviously there is now, I think it's well known now, whether or not people are going to talk about this, I think it's now well known at the Marble Palace in Little Rock that there are clear, stark, different directions between how Governor Hutchinson feels about China and how President Trump and the people in his administration feel about China. They clearly feel 2 completely different ways, right? Arkansas is trying to bring 6 communist entities in Arkansas because they're promising us jobs in some capacity. This is in spite of the fact that we have the FBI saying that they've got open investigations in all 50 states relating to Chinese intellectual property theft / espionage. And that's really what this is we're talking about espionage here. I don't see how you could, just because you call yourself a company, I mean, when we all know you're not really a company. The governor's saying, Roby Brock writes, Hutchinson said despite the tension between the 2 countries, he is still optimistic that previously announced Chinese investment in Arkansas will continue. Quote, those are decisions that are made by the Chinese investors. They look at the economy just like everyone else, and they look at the trade disputes and the impact it'll have on their individual businesses. I have not seen any indication that with the current investments that this is making a difference. Okay, so the governor believes that communist Chinese business owners have individual businesses. Now, do you believe that? I guess maybe my understanding for how a communist regime works is all wrong. Now, I know China has used capitalism to their advantage, but they haven't embraced it in terms of capitalism is an economic system versus a political system that gives people individual rights and freedoms and gives, business owners rights and everything. China doesn't have that. I mean, why do you think Hong Kong is protesting, trying to keep the freedoms, the remaining freedoms that they have that were left after the British rule ended? Why do you think that? It's because they want freedom. Why do you think they're waving the American flag? Because they want freedom. Chinese business owners in the Shandong province, they're not free like American business owners are. And to suggest that they're just like everybody else is just not accurate. I'm trying not to characterize it in a way that would be insulting. It's just not accurate. It's not like we're doing business with Germany even, or some European country that actually at least claims to value private property. It's the Communist Party. There is no private property when the government decides that you're not supposed to have it anymore. Everything's just given to you on loan, as long as you're in good standing with the red communist Chinese. They look at the economy just like everybody else. No, they don't. They're looking at how to exploit America's economy for their own benefit to try to supplant us. It's very clear that they're trying to supplant us. And they're trying to treat Arkansas, that is, compared to the rest of the 50 states in this country, is in the bottom 10 at the very least. They're exploiting our weakness. They're exploiting our desire to have better jobs. Just like they would exploit Zimbabwe, but to it's not apples to apples, but you get the point. Let's look at the United States and let's see. Where's the weakest link? Oh, you know what? Wasn't Bill Clinton and that corrupt? He was from Arkansas, right? Yeah, he was from Arkansas. Doesn't Arkansas have what seems to be a dozen politicians going to jail right now for taking money and enriching themselves? I bet we can find some politicians there that'll take our money so that we can get these Chinese deals going. And there's a legal way to do it, by the way. There's a legal way to do it. You just look at what Peter Schweitzer wrote in his book. There's a legal way to do it, man. And we have been, this idea that we're intertwined with China, it's true, but it's not necessarily a good thing. We thought introducing capitalism to China would somehow make them support private property and individual freedom. And newsflash, it did not. They're hostile towards Christians. They're tearing down churches. They're trying to take the freedom from folks in Hong Kong. And it's one thing to trade with them, but it's a whole other thing to court them and give Arkansas taxpayer dollars and incentives for them to use our trees and send the profits back home. It's not even about profit, by the way. The Chinese government can subsidize this all day long if it means they get intellectual property that they can make money on the other side. Make no mistake. When you look at, Rui or Sun Paper or whatever, we're talking about titles that are just slapped on these are products and arms of the Communist Chinese Party. They are a communist country. That's how it works. Everything is nationalized. And they may have some great window dressing and it looks like it, but if you step out of line with the Chinese Communist Party, then you're done, son. It's over. So, it's clear now. It's more clear now than ever that this is a stark contrast between the governor and President Trump and Vice President Mike Pence. A stark contrast, and it makes me very uncomfortable to say it. It makes me very uncomfortable that we have a historic challenge of one of America's rivals in the Chinese, a historic challenge that's going on right now internationally, trying to solve a big problem, trying to look out for the future of America. And Arkansas, our home state, is a part of that problem. And that's sad to me. We're going to take a break. Back in a moment.
I wanted to remind you that if you miss the daily live broadcast, you can always catch up and listen across our digital platforms on your smartphone or computer. First, you can watch the show on Facebook. Just use your internet browser and type in facebook.com/Conduit News. From there, select videos on the left side of your screen. From there, you can watch the full 2-hour show each day or select specific interviews you want to watch. Another place you can watch the show is on YouTube. Just use your internet browser and type in youtube.com. Then, in the search bar, search for Conduit News. Select the Conduit News page as it appears. While here, be sure to hit the subscribe button and click the little bell to receive notifications when new videos are ready. From YouTube, You can also watch every live show daily and all the interviews I have with guests. More options are available at our website, conduitnews.com. Select Conduit News Radio with Paul Harrell tab. From here, you can watch each day's show live or watch old episodes and interviews. You can also catch audio-only versions of the show right here on this page of the website. For audio-only versions of the show, you have some options. For Apple iPhone users, simply use the podcast app and search Conduit News. Subscribe to the podcast and get each hour of the show automatically in your app daily. You can also download the SoundCloud app from your app store and search Conduit News to find our station. Conduit News is the intersection of conservative ideas and reality. And now you know. You've got many options to watch what we do, listen to what we do, and find out what government is doing in your name. Learn more at conduitnews.com.
To meet the increased competition when things are going good.
Wow.
And that's the case with any business. The better things go, the more people want to be in on the action.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, I hadn't
But
actually thought of that. Go ahead.
We enjoyed the success that other people have because of the economy. So it is more fun when the economy's going good.
Yeah. Yeah. What about the the tax cuts, the new tax policy that's been put in place? Was that something that was helpful, or did it have any effect at all?
Well, there are so many things that are going on. Are you talking about the national tax cuts?
Yeah, the Trump tax cuts. Let's start there.
Yeah, yeah. Of course, it put more money in people's pockets, more spendable cash. Their house payment didn't go up because they got a tax decrease, and it helped.
Exposing the truth and everything the Marble Palace establishment keep trying to cover up. It's Conduit News Radio with Paul Harrell.
That's a good question. Somebody, Woods on Facebook, Clinton-China connection. Wonder if that has anything to do with Arkansas favoring China. I don't know. I don't know. I mean, you have Bill Clinton giving away that missile technology. I mean, he's very similar to the way, with the Uranium One deal and then the Clinton Foundation and, speeches and things like that. I mean, there's certainly a template out there for what the Clintons have done, not just with the China. Then you got the Biden template. You got the Joe Biden template with his son, Hunter, going over and then getting a giant $1 billion investment deal with the Chinese, and wouldn't you know, Biden thinks, the relationship, the old way of doing things with China was working out great. All you got, if you don't believe if you know that the mainstream media is not telling you the truth, then when the mainstream media actually starts reporting on the threat to China, the threat China poses to the United States, then you cannot believe it, right? When they actually start telling you about the threat, then don't believe it, because then there probably isn't one. Isn't that ridiculous that that's the type of world that we live in now? They're telling you that Russia's our biggest threat, and they're not benign by any stretch of the imagination, but come on. This is where the truth really lies. Diving into this. And the trade war is so much bigger than just it's much bigger than just about trade. It's much bigger than that. And I'm encouraged. I hope the president's right. I hope that they get a deal before 2020. But I think the Chinese are going to attempt to help the Democrat Party every chance they can, because, President Xi has appointed himself dictator for life over there. Donald Trump only has 2 terms, max. So it may just be one of those things where he thinks he can wait him out. But is Lindsey Graham right? Is Senator Graham right? Does America just have way more economic bullets than China does? We'll have to wait and see. Back in a moment.
Hi, folks. I'd like to tell you about Conduit for Commerce. Conduit for Commerce is an Arkansas-focused nonprofit organization which receives no government funding. Its core beliefs are economic freedom, individual liberty, and limited government. Conduit for Commerce believes those principles are foundational to all individual freedoms and promotes these principles by educating Arkansans and your elected state officials concerning good government policies that will create a better life for all Arkansans. These traditional conservative values have proven throughout history to lift people from poverty, achieve individual desire, and assist in the pursuit of happiness. Conduit for Commerce operates on the basic belief that these principles and ideals of the American founding are worth conserving and renewing at each generation, especially today. Conduit for Commerce accomplishes this work only through the support and interaction of small businesses as well as individuals. Conduit for Commerce thrives from like-minded Arkansans' participation and partnership. It's only through the support of folks like you that Conduit for Commerce is able to be the conduit to the Arkansas state capitol. Help us continue as Arkansas's primary small business policy entrepreneur through your financial support. Join us by visiting conduitforcommerce.org. Once you're at the site, click Support Our Cause at the top of your screen. Your one-time or monthly donation will directly impact Conduit for Commerce's mission to promote liberty and economic freedom in Arkansas. Together, we can build a liberty machine. That's conduitforcommerce.org.
The businesses that depend on spendable cash.
Yeah.
And, yes, it has helped.
We're talking, folks, with Dale Summit. He's the owner of the Old South Restaurant. You can find him, that's 1330 East Main Street in Russellville. And it's been serving, it's been open since 1947. And it's pretty interesting because, the history of the restaurant, Dale, is what I find interesting when you look at, it was one of the only places to stop to eat at one time. Is that correct?
Yes.
Go ahead.
No, go ahead. The conclusion, or the story is, from between Conway and Fort Smith, this was the only major restaurant to serve people 24 hours. It was open 24 hours, 7 days a week, 365 a year. The story is someone, they needed to close it for something, and no one could find a piece of it.
Need your daily news fix? Don't forget to tune in to Conduit News Radio with Paul Harrell.
Yeah, you know what? The Democrat ideology to me is so far, really and truly, it's so far out of the mainstream. If you go, and I've said this for a long time now, but if you go to your average person and you just go down the list of issues by issues, yeah, you're not going to agree 100% with everybody. But my goodness, at this point, the Democrat Party is, I just don't know how they can stand or even claim anything close to the moral high ground. And that's why every time you have a situation where, especially here in Arkansas, as the Democrat Party is getting less and less relevant, anytime you have a situation where a region or a district is possibly up for a change, the few remaining Democrats left are certainly vulnerable to Republican challengers, because I think the people of Arkansas have said that we don't like the Democrat Party anymore. They're not the party they were, and they're just not one that's compatible with Arkansas values today. And so that's why it was. I was glad to see that Democrat Eddie Cheatham, Senator Cheatham, is drawing a challenger, a guy by the name of Ben Gilmore, who is on the line with us now. Ben, Republican candidate for State Senate District 26. How are you, sir?
I'm good, Paul. How are you? Thank you for having me on.
Absolutely.
How are you doing?
I'm doing great this morning. I'm glad that you could spend some time with us because, like I said, anytime you got the chance to flip another district from blue to red, I think is a good thing. And to paint contrasts in bold colors. So Ben, why did you decide to get into the race?
Well, for a couple of reasons, and I think you kind of hit the nail on the head. Being from that district and, growing up down there and looking at some of the issues, but also, talking to folks down there that'll tell you that, maybe they voted Democrats before, but now the Democrat Party is not what they voted for years ago, and they've gone completely to the extreme. And looking at some of the issues on the state side of issues we're going to have to be dealing with down the road, and specifically in my district and Senate District 26, economic development is really important. And, looking at lower taxes to help stimulate growth and job growth and looking at ways to reduce our regulatory burden. I'm just going to be honest. Democrats hadn't been getting that right. They're not going to get that right. So folks, I think, are ready for a change. I've sat down with folks down there who have told me that they voted Democrat for a lot of years. They're going to be voting for me just because, well, for a couple of reasons. They look at what they see on the national scale, and it scares them a little bit. They see folks like Nancy Pelosi and AOC and the squad and some of the rest of the folks, and they say, you know what, that's not who I am. That's not what I was. I'm going to vote Republican because of it. Mm-hmm. And that's indicative, I think, of Arkansas, especially some of these southern regions that have been historically Democrat. These folks are looking at what they see nationally and even what they see in Little Rock from the Democratic Party, and they're saying, look, those aren't our values. Those aren't Arkansas values.
Do you think that some of those voters down there, the ones that had been voting Democrat, that were they still also some of the kind of the historic holdovers who would vote for Democrats locally but maybe vote for Republican presidential candidates?
Absolutely. I mean, those counties went heavily for Trump in 2016. Those counties went heavily for Romney in 2012. So I think, yes, you're right. They have voted locally Democrat, but they've always been more, historically been more Republican nationally. But I think they're starting to realize that, look, local elections matter. And some of those counties have elected their first Republican county judge. Some of them elected more conservative county sheriffs. So, yeah, I think you're seeing a shift, and I think that this is a very winnable district. I think that people are ready for a change, and they're tired of, I'm running as a Democrat, but, I have your values. Well, maybe, but they see what happens in Little Rock and they see what happens nationally, and they say, I don't think those are our values. We want someone who aligns with our values and who agrees on with us on the issue of abortion. And I think it's, and I've heard that from so many people. First question they want to know is, where are you on abortion? And are you running as a Republican? Oh, you got my vote because I know where you are on abortion. Mm-hmm. So some of those big hot button issues like that, in those areas, in the southern region there, in the Bible Belt, that's a big issue to folks, and it's a big issue to me as well. But they've looked historically at who's gotten that right, and Republicans have. And so, I think I just know that that area of looking at, historically what the numbers have been, and I think it's just ready to flip.
Yeah, again, we're talking with Ben Gilmore. He is a Republican candidate for State Senate District 26. District 26, can you kind of frame that for us geographically, just so if there's other people listening that don't quite get where District 26 is?
Yeah, so it's basically the whole southeast corner of Arkansas. So it's Ashley, Bradley, Chico, Deshay, Drew, part of Cleveland, part of Lincoln County.
Okay.
So that whole southeast corner, that's the district.
Now, you've worked Ben, previously, you've worked for Congressman Bruce Westerman. Currently, you're the Deputy Chief of Staff and Communications Director for Lieutenant Governor Tim Griffin. So how is that experience, specifically, working at the Capitol and, kind of knowing, seeing the whole process play out? How has that prepared you for public service or continued public service? Go ahead.
Right. Well, I like to tell folks that I've worked for or continue to work for two of the greatest guys, I think, the conservatives in Arkansas. Bruce Westerman is a strong conservative for us in Washington and doing a great job for us there. And, of course, Lieutenant Governor Griffin is, just a solid conservative, very bold ideas here on the state side. But, one of the things I tell people is, I'm already representing that area. Why? Because I've worked for Bruce Westerman. I represented that area to him while he was in D.C. I was the representative for that area. So, and then now with working for Tim, people still call me and they say, "Hey, can you help us with whatever, constituent service, you name it." And so I tell people, look, I've already been doing the job, and I haven't even been hired to do that job. So, I jokingly say that, but the truth of the matter is, that's just absolutely the way it is. And so, being in the state capitol, seeing how the process works, seeing how the process sometimes doesn't work, and watching, I'm usually in the Senate chamber when Lieutenant Governor is in there and they're in session, and seeing how the Senate operates and how legislation is moved through the chamber, and so it's been a wealth of knowledge and experience for me. It's been a pleasure to serve for the Lieutenant Governor and with Lieutenant Governor, and all of that is going to help me immensely if elected senator, because I think I already have a good idea of what the issues are. I have a great idea or understanding how the process works. So all of that plays into, helping me if I'm elected. But, and I tell folks down there, look, I've been working for bold conservatives. That's who I am. I'm going to still be a bold conservative in Little Rock if elected. And because there's a lot of things we've done over the last, 5 or 6 years that we've done and we've gotten right. But there's a lot of things that we need to continue to do and keep moving the state forward. And we need bold conservatives in the state Senate and in the state House. So that's why I threw my hat in the ring, is because there's a lot that we need to do. There's a region, my region down in southeast Arkansas, that they need somebody to represent their values. And I want to do that.
There is, and I'm really glad that you've thrown your hat in the ring, and I agree with you about the need for bold conservatives. We certainly do need that. You did mention abortion, as being an issue that's certainly important to you. And you also, in your statement to SE Arc today, also mentioned defending the Second Amendment. So that's also something that's important to you.
Yes, absolutely. Well, and I think a lot of people would say historically in Arkansas we've gotten both those issues right, and I think we've been moving the ball forward on both of those issues.
Yeah.
I think it's one of those things that you can't say ever, all right, well we're done, we're as far as we can go, and so I think looking at what's happening nationally. Look, Democrats nationally are doing some crazy stuff, Paul, and I don't have to tell that to you or your listeners, but look at what they've done in New York and what they've been talking about in Virginia on abortion. It's really just disgusting things, and so I don't think Arkansas will ever get to that point. I hope not, but you know what? We need leaders to make sure that we don't get to that point. And so, yeah, I will never apologize for my stance on abortion. I'm 100% pro-life, and also, obviously support the Second Amendment wholeheartedly. So, again, not that here in Arkansas, I think that we've seen a huge push to, push back on those issues, but I think we've got to keep moving forward on those and even many other issues. And as my statement said, economic development, job growth is going to be one of my major focuses if elected. Crossett, my hometown, just lost 550 jobs thereabout. Just got news last week that they're going to be losing another 25. That's devastating for the region. That's devastating for my home community. And when you have friends, as I did, I have friends that are in their 40s, that have families, and they call you and they're in tears and they say, "Look, this is devastating. We don't know what to do, and this is just so tough." And that's it's hard to hear that. And when you get those phone calls, you start thinking, what can I do? And so, I think there's a lot of things we can do on the state side. I think we can get our state to a more business-friendly climate, and I think we do that by addressing, taxes, overall tax burden, and I think we do that by addressing regulatory issues as well.
Yeah.
So.
Ben Gilmore, I appreciate you coming on. I look forward to talking to you. Obviously, we're kind of a long ways out from the election, but I appreciate you throwing your hat in the ring, sir. I wish you the best of luck.
Hey, thank you so much for having me on, Paul. And I'll just say this. I don't know if you saw the news this morning, but David Ray just put out an announcement. David Ray works with me in the Lieutenant Governor's office. He just put out an announcement this morning, and he's running for State House District 40, which is North Pulaski County, part of Faulkner and some other county, but yeah, the Maumelle, Mayflower area. He's announcing today that he's running. So another bold conservative
that
conservatives need support.
Yeah, no doubt about that. I'm glad that that's a public announcement now. But yeah, that's also fantastic. We'll get David on the program as well to talk about it. Ben, I appreciate it, sir. Thanks for breaking that news, sir.
Absolutely.
All right.
Thank you so much, Paul. Appreciate it.
All
Bye-bye.
right. Yeah. Well, we're going to get two people from the Lieutenant Governor's office throwing their hat into the state political arena, if you will. One in the Senate, one in the House. Folks, we're going to take a break. This is Conduit News. We'll be back in a moment.
Hi, folks. I'd like to tell you about Conduit for Commerce. Conduit for Commerce is an Arkansas-focused nonprofit organization which receives no government funding. Its core beliefs are economic freedom, individual liberty, and limited government. Conduit for Commerce believes those principles are foundational to all individual freedoms and promotes these principles by educating Arkansans and your elected state officials concerning good government policies that will create a better life for all Arkansans. These traditional conservative values have proven throughout history to lift people from poverty, achieve individual desire, and assist in the pursuit of happiness. Conduit for Commerce operates on the basic belief that these principles and ideals of the American founding are worth conserving and renewing at each generation, especially today. Conduit for Commerce accomplishes this work only through the support and interaction of small businesses as well as individuals. Conduit for Commerce thrives from like-minded Arkansans' participation and partnership. It's only through the support of folks like you that Conduit for Commerce is able to be the conduit to the Arkansas State Capitol. Help us continue as Arkansas's primary small business policy entrepreneur through your financial support. Join us by visiting conduitforcommerce.org. Once you're at the site, click Support Our Cause at the top of your screen. Your one-time or monthly donation will directly impact Conduit for Commerce's mission to promote liberty and economic freedom in Arkansas. Together, we can build a liberty machine. That's conduitforcommerce.org.
Front door. Because they never closed.
Wow.
But it, it served people in all of the entertainment industry, the political people. Because when the speeches and the shows were over, this was the only place to go. So it has served, of course, Elvis Presley is the most famous, and on down to Bill Clinton, Jimmy Carter, most of the politicians and the entertainers from that era.
Wow, that's fantastic. Well, it's a great place. I think if you're in the area and you need a hot breakfast, I think that's the place to go right now, or lunch or dinner. Dale, I'm a big fan of Old South, and I really appreciate you coming on this morning and spending a little time with us.
Well, Paul, we're a big fan of you. We listen to you, and we.
Conduit News Radio with Paul Harrell is building a liberty machine. Find out more at conduitnews.com.
That's funny right there, Joe. Let's get right to the statement. You heard state senatorial candidate Ben Gilmore breaking the news. We're talking about his candidacy. He drops this on us. This was tweeted out by David Ray. David Ray, Chief of Staff for Lieutenant Governor Tim Griffin, also former state director of Americans for Prosperity Arkansas. Before that, David Ray launches campaign for the State House in District 40. He's been endorsed by Senator Cotton and Lieutenant Governor Tim Griffin. David Ray announced his bid on Monday to seek the Republican nomination for Arkansas House District 40. The district includes portions of northern Pulaski County and southern Faulkner County. In announcing his candidacy, Ray said, quote, "I'm running for state representative to be a leader in the fight for lower taxes, limited government, and Arkansas family values. For over a decade, I have fought to advance our shared conservative values, and my goal is to protect our God-given individual liberties and to make Arkansas the best possible place to live, work, raise a family, and start a business," end quote. Along with his campaign announcement, Ray rolled out major endorsements from United States Senator Tom Cotton and Lieutenant Governor Tim Griffin. In endorsing Ray, Senator Cotton said, quote, "David Ray was one of the most trusted advisors on my Senate campaign. I support David because he's a committed conservative who will fight for Arkansas values. I strongly endorse him for state representative." Lieutenant Governor Griffin also endorsed Ray for state representative, saying David Ray is a proven conservative who will be a strong voice for North Pulaski and southern Faulkner counties. He shares my goals of lowering taxes, reforming state government, and giving parents more choice in education. He would make an outstanding addition to the legislature. Since 2017, David Ray has served as Chief of Staff for Lieutenant Governor Tim Griffin. From 2015-2017, he was State Director for Americans for Prosperity Arkansas, leading the chapter's efforts to defeat increases and advance economic freedom, defeat tax increases. Prior to that, Ray helped defeat liberal U.S. Senator Mark Pryor as the Communications Director for Tom Cotton. In 2013, Ray was the Communications Director for the Republican Party of Arkansas. He lives in Maumelle with his wife, Jessica, and their daughter, Charlotte. Anyway, we'll reach out to David. We'll get him on the program. Hopefully, we'll have him on by midweek because I'm going to be here through Wednesday's broadcast, but then I'm going to be out Thursday through the day after Labor Day. I'll be back here Wednesday the 4th, but we'll have Jan Morgan. Jan Morgan will be guest hosting the program on Thursday, and then on Friday and Tuesday, Hannah Webb will be guest hosting the program, and we're excited to have her on. She's been on our Young Conservative segment several times. As a matter of fact, I actually think she's been married since then, so probably need to remember her new last name. You have to forgive me on that one. But so we got a great week of programming ahead for you. But anyway, let's go ahead and get to the meme of the day, shall we? Your meme of the day is pretty simple. Many of you might have heard that Barack Obama and Michelle Obama have bought a giant, what is it? Is it a $15 million home? Is that what it is? A $15 million estate in Martha's Vineyard.
And I'm pretty sure it spans like 30 beachfront 30 acres of beachfront property.
Really?
I think that's how long.
I mean, look at that place. I mean, it looks palatious. It's beautiful. So climate change is not a thing then, right? Like, it's not really a thing. I mean, can we honestly say that he doesn't really believe in it? I guess that's what we could say, is he really doesn't care or believe in it. I mean, look at this. 4_ touchdowns. This is courtesy of the number 4_ touchdowns. Barack Obama tweets, sea levels are rising due to climate change, potentially threatening U.S. cities. We have to act on climate. Right under this is Barack Obama and Michelle Obama are buying a $15 million estate in Martha's Vineyard. Now, some of you out there may not see the connection to this, but I mean, if you really dive into the eco, save the trees, chain yourself to a tree to stop. I mean, if you really dive into it, why in the world would somebody need that much land? Why in the world would somebody need that much property?
That's it.
Yeah, that is the house right there. It's a beautiful house, though. I mean, oh, by the way, can we also talk? I mean, really and truly, when Barack Obama, was a senator, I mean, the guy was not worth hardly. I mean, the guy couldn't. I mean, he wasn't worth what? It's ridiculous. He's worth, yeah. I mean, he was an attorney for Tony Rezko, and he's like a Chicago slumlord, and that remember the Clintons when they were in the primary, they actually hammered that a lot, and he wasn't really worth that much, didn't have a lot of money, and now you've been president, you're making all the money with speeches, and you're worth $40 million now. Barack Obama is buying a $15 million estate. Wow. Anyway, we'll post this meme up at Conduit News, Twitter at Conduit News, as well as facebook.com/Conduit News. On the program tomorrow, we're going to be talking at 7:30. Once again, we've got Jonesboro Alderman Bobby Long will be sitting to my right. We're excited about that. Also, looking at the rest of the schedule, we have reached out. You know who we've reached out to? I haven't heard back from him yet. But John, is it Ogles or Ogles? He's the attorney from Central Arkansas that filed the ethics complaint against the justices of the peace in Pope County about this casino situation that's been going on. And I tell you, it is so ironic if you, well, I don't know about ironic, but I say that it's interesting to me that you had this one, you have all these articles with Pope County about the casinos and the people that are for it, the people that are against it, kind of maybe the potential inside baseball that's going on. And then you have one article about the casinos in Pine Bluff, and everybody's like, oh, we're in total agreement. We want this casino. Everything's above board. There's no bribery going on. There's no bribery going on. There's, the Qualpot Nation's like, I don't want to have to talk to U.S. attorneys and explain why I am cutting one check or this check or whatever. There's like, nope, we want the casino. Everything's above board here. We're good to go because everyone's in agreement, right? But not everyone's in agreement up in Pope County. And so how are you going to get casino nobody wants? How are you going to put a casino in Pope County that nobody wants? Lucky for the casinos and the minority of people, I suspect, minority of people that want it, this is Arkansas. Where there's a will, there's a way. Right? You can always figure it out. I mean, if you polled everybody about Chinese companies coming here, if you polled everybody, you think, given the facts, you think they would say yes? I don't know. But hey, there's always a way to thump the majority opinion for the minority benefit, if you know what you're doing. If you know what you're doing. What is his name? The Tammany brothers. George Washington Plunkett. That quote. That's the Tammany men. They're not brothers, the Tammany men. Yeah, George Washington Plunkett. Look that up. All right, we got a whole show. We're going to get ready for it right now. Just so you know, we are starting to prepare for the show you're going to listen to tomorrow morning right now. Arkansas, have a great Monday. Be safe.